Welcome to the show, Jessica. I'm your host, Jessica Rector. Today we're going to talk about overcoming obstacles and dealing with tragedies and how you get through them. Today my guest is Lori Allen Thomas. Welcome, Lori.
Thank you.
Today I'd just like you to begin with us by telling us a little bit about your story and how you came to be.
How I came to be? Well, when I was young, I was a Navy brat, and my father was a commander in the Naval Air Station. He flew jet planes, and we had this perfect life, like this Jackie O life. My mom would dress up like Jackie O and take the little kids and dress up and have dinner parties and all that. My father flew in Korea and had many medals. He was stationed also in the Pentagon, very classified, could never tell my mother any of the things he did. And he flew a plane actually that would take pictures of aerial views of the enemy. So he would go into Korea and take these pictures and have other planes surrounded by him that had ammunition on it because he could not carry that.
Okay.
So that's what he would do. He was also the first person who also flew into the eye of a hurricane and took pictures there.
Yeah,
so it was very
great.
exciting. We were very proud of my father, and he was a very good man. When I was 7, we moved out to California, Miramar Air Base, and he was testing out a plane which malfunctioned and went down and crashed on the air base. My father was killed. And it was really, well, it was tragic. And
Right.
again, it was also classified. We had no idea really what the story was, except for some people did come forth and say, tell us a little bit what happened. It was a tough, my mom had 3 kids at that time, my brother, my older sister, and she was left, husbandless. No
Right.
job, no nothing. We just bought this 6-bedroom humongo house, and our life just got topsy-turvy. So we had a hard time dealing with that. At that time, there was no real counseling, family counseling for
Right.
those kind of things. My mom, who was very in love with my father, her heart was broken, and she kind of distanced herself. She did the best that she could for what she had emotionally, but could not really give us as much as we wanted, And we had to fend for ourselves a lot of times, and my sister sometimes became mom, My mom was off to work or whatever. She'd take care of us and babysit us, and it was just really weird at that time. Well, we grew up and in our teens, and my sister was a crazy, crazy, nutty woman who I loved dearly. But she had a total free spirit and all these ideas, and she loved the family idea, wanted to have the family. She wanted her father so much back on this earth. And anyways, she became Mormon, like around when she was 19, I would say, right before she went to college. Oh, this upset my mother, who's like strict Catholic. You do not become Mormon. And pretty much disowned my sister and kicked her out of the house and just said, don't talk to us anymore. And about sometime later, my sister then got cancer, and she went through chemo, through the whole process, but ending up passing away. Now, during that time of the chemos and everything, my mother came through and was there at the hospital all the time, the whole time. And we had services in the Mormon church, which was my sister's wishes. So my mother really came through. My brother was very close to my sister at that time. They were best friends, best friends, and he was just devastated and hurt. And again, at that time there was no counseling. There wasn't any hospice
Right.
or anything. We literally saw my sister deteriorate before our eyes in a slow, horrible process. And you get left with these images in your head, and you can't get them out. And it could have been very easily that our family could have broken apart. We could have gone into just this downward spiral. And sometimes we did.
Right.
Sometimes we lost it and didn't think that we were going to make it through.
But how do you make it through? Because to the people like myself who've never experienced the loss of the first person, how do you somehow manage, even as a kid, to deal with that? And then once you do, then this next horrible thing happens, and then you feel like maybe that you have to start all over again. So how do you begin even with your father and then have to do it again with your sister?
Well, with my father, it was sort of going into a dream state for me, almost like a fantasy kind of. I loved going to school. Call me nutty, but I loved going to school. No, I wasn't very good at school. My grades just plummeted, but I loved art. I was going into art, taking art classes and sculpture, anything creative to get myself not thinking about, you know, what had just happened, that I lost my father. I talked to a lot of friends that I had, although at that time it was strange because, you know, you're talking about 20 years ago where people really didn't have divorce. We were in like white bread America. Right. Kids kind of looked at you funny, you know, because, ooh, you don't have a father, and ooh, that's the girl whose father died, you know. And
you're different. You're
different, right. And so you kind of feel like that. So you kind of like, you know, a little bit of you kind of pulls back, does your own thing, goes into the fantasy world, dreaming, you know, what could be, or, you know, for me.
Right.
In my life in the future, and almost wishing that, you know, there's another man to come into my mom's life. I want another father, you know, and I wished for that so bad. And my mother dated a few times, was even engaged, but that never came to fruition. She was just in love with my father so much, you know, which is romantic, but
yeah, heartbreaking.
Yeah, very, very heartbreaking. You don't know what's going on as a kid. You think that you know things that other kids don't know, and you do, really, because you've had to grow up in an instant. And you've had to deal with a family now that's broken up in pieces and that is fighting and can't deal with their emotions. My mother actually took my father's pictures down, all my father's pictures, clothes, everything, out of the house and shipped it away. Shipped it away to my relatives. So it was like you couldn't say anything. You couldn't, you know, talk about my father, or what did Daddy do, or what, you know, he was, I mean, it was just weird. So
he didn't exist
He didn't exist, yeah. And every time you did bring it up, it was just this tension, you know. I think my mother also, you know, in losing my father, was really afraid to be close to us because she was afraid of losing us as well, you know. And that made us go, what's wrong with us? You know, as a kid, everything happens to you.
Right.
Kids, you know, tend to think that the world is evolved around yourself. I had to work a long time to get out of that.
Well, how exactly did you get out of it? Because you said there wasn't, you know, groups and, you know, stuff like that. And therapy back then was, you know, you just didn't talk about going to therapy.
Yeah, no.
That meant you were crazy if you were going to therapy.
Yeah, you don't go to crazy.
So, yeah. So how do you get through that? I mean, so basically you found a passion, you found something that interests you, and tried to focus your energy on that. And so that's kind of maybe how you dealt with your dad, and then this sudden thing happened with your sister.
My sister. And at that time with my father, you know, I thank God I could have gone the pathway of drugs and all that, but I thank God I didn't do that. I did kind of go the opposite. I did kind of get into a religious group and get very, you know, born again.